Welcome along to June's planning meeting. First of all, calling Pontius to read out the notice and summons the meeting. Thanks, Pontius.
Good afternoon, members. You are hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Planning Committee to be held in the Council Chamber in Strabane on Wednesday, the 5th of June, 2024 at 2 p.m. For attendance, Alderman Keith Kerrigan, Alderman Neary McMorris, Alderman Janice Montgomery, Councillor John Boyle, here. Councillor Caroline Devine, Councillor Sean Fleming,
And Sean.
Councillor Paul Gallagher,
And Sean.
Councillor Christopher Jackson,
And Sean.
Councillor Fergal Leonard,
And sure.
Councillor Patricia Logue,
Apologies.
Councillor Sean Mooney,
Here.
Councillor Patrick Murphy,
And Sean.
Councillor Martin Riley, Councillor Grace O'Neillis.
And sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pontius. I'll just read out now the broadcasting statement. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you're seated in the public seating media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or public seating, you are consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of those images for webcasting and streaming purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website, www.derrystrabane.com. Can I at this stage ask for any declaration of members' interest?
Chair, if I could just declare an interest, non-pecuniary, but still I'll declare an interest on planning application LA11 2023 1716, and that's a full application, so that's number 7 on our list, Chair. I'll step out of the room when that's been heard.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Is there anybody else? Councillor Jackson.
Good Chair. Can I declare an interest on the application number 2 and application number 4 as a commissioner on full board? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Listen, any time during the meeting as an item arise, if you wish to make any declaration of interest, you can just let me know. You just want to go on to Chairman's business, and I'd just like to ask you if there's any information on late items.
Members, just one late item has been issued on Monday that related to open for information item 9, which is the Northwest Transport Plan. So there was an additional sheet sent out to you on Monday.
Thanks, Pontius, for that. Just a couple of items from myself on Chairperson's business. Just like to say it's an absolute honour for me to be chosen by my party as Chair of Planning for this year coming in, and I look forward to working closely with all the council officers involved with planning and to all members of the Planning Committee. I'd like to welcome back all the members from last year's Planning Committee. Good to see you all again. And I'd like to welcome new members. Alderman Montgomery, hopefully she'll get to join us later on or very shortly. Also, Councillor Devine, very welcome. And to returning Councillor Ray, good to see you back, Martin. Thank you. So my best advice to the new members on Planning Committee is to take up all offers of any training that are provided to you. Listen and learn from all the council planners and all the support staff, because all the planning officers and staff here are totally committed to the planning department, dedicated and many, many years of experience. And it's also very important to learn and listen from your colleagues on the planning committee. Again, many, many years of experience of planning applications, discussions, decisions, etc. So that's my best advice to the new members. It also, at today's meeting, some not so good news for us. I know we're going to be losing, unfortunately, two key members of staff, Sarah Barrett and Kieran Rogers. This is their last meeting. And I know there'll be a huge loss to the planning department here at council. And I would like you to wish you both all the best for a very happy and successful journey, wherever your career path is taking you now. And I know it's an old adage, but do make sure that you stay in contact with your colleagues here at council. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I don't know if you can hear feedback from this, but no, it was disappointing news to I know from our perspective to hear that we're losing two key members of our team. I know that they feed into this committee regularly. I know as a member of the committee since the new council have merged. Both Sarah and Kieran have provided invaluable advice to us. I think Sarah has presented to this committee numerous times on almost every occasion, and the level of detail in the report makes it very easy for us to take decisions. And I suppose there's never any doubt in relation to what we're being asked to decide on, and the level of expertise and professionalism shown by both officers has been second to none. So it's a huge loss for us as a council district, and Kieran as well. There's any enforcement cases that is presented to this committee, or any enforcement cases that I personally have contacted Kieran about, it is the advice that we've received back has been first class, in every and it's always done in a timely manner. And we as a planning service and as a council, you don't like to highlight individuals, but it is, I suppose, any time you're speaking to members of the public or the planning agents or applicants, if either Sarah or Kieran's name is mentioned, it's followed by a glowing reflection of the work that they're carrying out on behalf of council. They're two individuals that have been continuously highlighted for the work that they're carrying out and the assistance that they provide to people. So it's going to be a huge loss to us as a planning service and as us as a council. But I'm on behalf of our group and just wish you both the very best and what you are go on and doing. Hopefully you continue to be a voice and for the city and district and provide and don't be a stranger going forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in, and do congratulate yourself on your appointment to Chair of Planning, and again, Councillor Murphy as Vice Chair. So put that on record. So you'll be well able to do that. I know you got on to planning very well, to be fair to you, and the last year. So you'll do first class job and Chair. And again, as has been stated by Councillor Jackson, there it is disappointing to lose two members of the planning team, particularly senior members such as Sarah and Kieran. And any time they brought in a report, it was always to a high standard, and we're always able to answer any questions or anything that was raised with it. And it's very disappointing that we're losing them, but we do wish them all the best in the future. And you know, they may be back at some stage, but we do wish them all the best in your future endeavours. But it's a sad day for us. But again, we wish you every success. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrigan, for your kind words to the staff and to myself. Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Just to congratulate yourself and being elevated into the chair's position for the next 12 months. I'm sure you'll find it interesting and fascinating. Anybody who's ever served in that position always says that it is. And it's challenging enough role as well. But I think, as you said yourself, there are many good professional people around you and around us, not least Sarah and Kieran, who are moving on. But pastures new, onwards and upwards. All I can say as somebody who has served on the planning committee since its inception, same as Councillor Jackson, that I've always found both of you very helpful, very professional. You'll be missed. I have no doubt about that at all. But I think we always have to be thankful for the work that people do. And obviously, of course, on behalf of myself and indeed my party colleagues, just to thank you both for all of the work that you've done over all of the years that you've served in the planning committee, or the planning department, should I say. Albeit it does sometimes feel like you're on the committee as well, because we're all here every month, 1 or 2 times every month. And so it's always a difficult time to leave, and it's always difficult for people to see you go. But as I said, go with good heart. We really do genuinely appreciate all of your effort over those very, very many years. And who knows, as others have said, there's never a time where you might never come back again, you know. I mean, so don't be a stranger. Please don't be a stranger. And thank you very much to both of you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle, too, for your kind words. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations to yourself. Good to see Mr. Ban Rep on there. Chair. Tinged with sad news. Sarah and Kieran, I haven't been on planning for a good while, but over my lifetime and as a councillor, I've been engaging with the planning services, and particularly Sarah, anytime I come in with a query or anything to do with planning, I always got the best of service. So I have to say, you'll be a great loss. And I might have said it once before, you know, but I don't know who would be a planning officer. I just don't know who would want to be one. That's it. And if this is your last meeting, Sarah in particular, like, I would say give the committee hell. Give them hell, because you've got an opportunity to do it. You know that one, you ever see the one of Mr. Bean? You ever see him? But I say I wish both of you well. And whatever endeavours you take on. So you should be a sad loss indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher, and for your kind words, Eamon.
Thank you very much, Chair, for letting me in. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. So I think everything that has to be said has been said. On behalf of the colleagues and the senior officers of council, I just want to thank Sarah and Kieran for all the work and the contribution, the significant contribution that both of them have made here to the planning committee and to the council. It's always hard when people are leaving, but when opportunities arise, I think we send them there with our very best wishes. I'm sure they'll be very successful. If their past history here is anything to go by, I'm sure they'll make a great success in their new roles. And as I say, we're very sorry to see them go, but they leave with their very best wishes. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Eamon. And again, Kieran and Sarah, best wishes right across the chamber. Just shows how much you appreciate it. And you can always come back. You can always come back. Yeah. Just whenever we're doing acknowledgements, I would like to in particularly thank Councillor Mooney and his deputy, Councillor Gallagher, who was always ready to step into the breach if he was needed, who was chair and vice chair of the planning committee last year. I'm sure everybody will agree with me, the fair and very respectful manner that Councillor Mooney carried out the meetings, very welcoming and respectful nature to all the visitors to the chamber. And at times, visitors to the chamber didn't always go away with the decision that they wanted, but that that's the way that is, the way the plan committee works. But in particular, Sean, thank you very much for the way you managed the planning committee last year. And thanks to you too, Paul. I'd just like to now clarify with you the running order for today. So it'll be applications 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 3, and 6. Right, Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say thank you for your very kind sentiments there, just before we left Chair's business. And thank you for indulgence, Chair, on this matter. I really just want to do it before the applications start. And simply just upon reading the papers last night, my apologies, because obviously AGM, you were installed on Monday night. I just didn't get a chance to send an email. But my proposal would be, upon reading the papers, that if I could propose maybe on item number 2, which is Temple Road, LA 11 23 2045, if I could possibly request a site meeting. I read the papers last night, and there was a few issues that appeared to me that I think personally myself, and maybe other members, subject to their own views, I would benefit from a site meeting on some issues, namely the buffer zone and in relation to FLD3. Perhaps there's the element of flood risk there. It would help me to probably make a better decision, inform me better if I could maybe attend a site meeting. But that's a proposal for me, and I did it just because I didn't want you to open the application later on and subject to members, and I'll leave it there. If I could have a seconder, would be even better. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Gallagher. Thank you, Chair, for indulging me.
Okay, Councillor Mooney proposing, second by Councillor Gallagher. Do a visit to proposed hard standing yard at Foilport. Is anybody any views on that? Councillor Jackson.
Chair, just again, they reiterated that I've declared an interest in this, so that, but I suppose maybe just for advice, when we're discussing the potential of a site visit, they need to leave the room for that. Okay.
Councillor Fleming.
I wouldn't have any issue with that personally, so.
No, I don't think there's any opposing views on that. So we'll get a date arranged for that and get a date arranged out. So we'll leave item 2 off today's meeting. So just a minute, running order will be 1, 4, 5, 7, 3, 6. I'll just like to apologise to anybody who's intending that had interest in this particular one that we're deferring it to a later date. Thank you. Okay. So just before we move on any further, you've probably been looking at your diaries for the next planning meeting, and the next planning meeting was due to take place on the 3rd and 4th of July. As I'm sure everybody in the chamber will know that there's elections on the 4th of July. How would you feel about moving the July meeting to alternative dates? I'll put a couple of suggestions out to you. First one mightn't work now, right enough, the 3rd and the 8th of July, or the 8th and the 15th. I know the 3rd is the day before the election, and most of you will probably be very busy. So 3rd and 8th, or the 8th and 15th for if we need the second day. You let me know how you feel about that.
Go for the 8th, Chair. Happy to propose that. That's it.
Councillor McNeice.
I'm happy to second that, the 8th and the 15th. Yeah.
I think everybody's in agreement with that. So July meeting will be the 8th and 15th of July.
So Chair, just through you, members, obviously that's a matter which requires a decision of council. There is a special meeting of council, I think, next week. So we'll raise that issue formally at the special council meeting to get agreement from the chamber and from the body corporate that we can move to those new dates. If anybody has a change of heart between now and then, they can let us know.
Philip, thanks for the clarification on that. Thank you. So matters arising from the confidential meetings of the planning committee held on Wednesday, the 8th of May. Yeah, just for the record, this is for open business. So matters arising from the open minutes of the planning committee held on Wednesday, 8th of May. Is any matters arising from that one? No, nothing. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the planning applications, and we're going to the first item, which is proposed erection of 26,000 units with associated parking, landscaping and open space at numbers 63 to 65 at 71 Castlefin Road, Castledearg. And Sarah will be taking us through this. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Chair. Item 1 is LA 11 2023 2115. It is the proposed erection of 26 housing units and associated parking, landscaping and open space on lands 63 to 65 and 71 Castlefin Road, Castledearg, and officer's recommendation is to approve. So this is the site location plan and the aerial photograph of the site. The site is located inside the settlement limit of Castledearg along Castlefin Road on unzoned land. The site is vacant and currently overgrown with vegetation. To the east, south and west are residential properties. East and south are terrace dwellings at Churchtown Park, and west are detached dwellings along Castlefin Road. To the north is St Patrick's Primary School and Nursery Unit. So this is a photograph showing the view into the application site from Castlefin Road. And the next photograph just shows the view of an existing hedgerow boundary, which provides screening to the site on the southern boundary with the existing property, number 1 Churchtown Park. This is a photograph showing the existing nursery and school, which is adjacent to the site at the northern boundary, and the lower photograph shows the detached 2-storey dwellings, which are located opposite the site. So there is a previous planning history on this site, application J 2006-0561, and that 21 dwelling units were approved on the 27th of February 2008. So in terms of the consultees, the Northern Ireland Housing Executive have confirmed housing need at this location and support the proposals. Northern Ireland Water have recommended refusals. However, officers consider that as the applicant has been engaging with NI Water and a Stage 1 solution engineer's report has been agreed and deemed deliverable on this basis, and on the balance, we consider a negative condition would be appropriate for the site. All the remaining consultees, which are listed on the screen there, have no objections subject to conditions, and a detailed consideration of the consultations are set out in your report. So in terms of representations, 1 objection has been received from St Patrick's Primary School and Nursery Unit, and 1 petition of objection with 9 signatures has been received from 4 addresses along Castlefin Road. And the issues raised include character, design, scale, massing, overdevelopment, amenity issues including overlooking, loss of light, overshadowing, traffic volumes and congestion, noise, drainage and sewage, and a detailed consideration is set out in the report. So this is the proposed site layout plan and an agent's 3D model view of the site. The development proposed is for 26 units, and this comprises of 2 apartment buildings providing 10 apartments in each building and a terrace of 5 dwellings and 1 detached bungalow. The apartment buildings provide a dual frontage aspect to both Castlefin Road and the internal road network. Whilst there is an objection from the primary and nursery school, the layout has been designed to take account of the school in the northern boundary. The apartment building on this boundary has no overlooking windows on the elevation facing the school. A single-storey bungalow is also located adjacent to the northern boundary at the rear of the site. Apartment building 2 is located adjacent to the southern boundary with the existing dwellings at Churchtown Park. The elevation to the existing dwellings is designed so again there are no overlooking windows and the rear of the building has been stepped in from the boundary. There is an existing hedgerow and boundary vegetation shown to be retained on the plan, and officers consider that its retention is important to Churchtown Park in order to protect residential amenity. In terms of private amenity space for each of the dwellings, an appropriate level has been provided for each of the units proposed. The apartments also have communal green space around the buildings, and there is a defined formal area of open space being provided within the site. So overall, the layout is considered acceptable in terms of PPS 7. This is an artist impression and contextual street elevation of the entrance to the site. This is the elevations and floor plans of the apartment building 1. This apartment is 3-story in height on its elevation facing Castlefin Road. The height of the building is reduced to 2-story at the rear, with the main elevation facing the internal access road. And this plan shows the measurements between the existing school and nursery with the proposed apartment building, and the distance between the two is approximately 25 to 26 metres. Again, there are no overlooking windows on the elevation facing the nursery site and school, and the existing vegetation along this boundary will be retained and additional planting proposed to further aid screening of the development. This is the elevations and floor plans of the apartment building 2, and this is adjacent to the entrance. This is adjacent to the existing terrace dwellings at Churchtown Park with a frontage again to Castlefin Road. It is 3-story in height to Castlefin Road and again reduces to 2-story at the rear. So this plan just shows the distances between the apartment building 2 and the closest residential properties at Churchtown Park. The existing dwelling number 1, Churchtown Park, does sit slightly lower than the proposed development, and there is also a laneway which separates the proposed site from the rear boundary of the terrace dwellings. There is approximately 11 metres between the rear of the existing dwelling and the proposed gable elevation of this 3-story element of the apartment building, and there's 13.63 metres between the 2-story part of the apartment building and the existing dwelling at number 2 Churchtown Park. So this is just the elevations and design of the terrace dwellings, and this is the design, elevations and floor plans of the complex needs bungalow. In terms of the open space proposals, amenity green space with external seating areas and circular paving areas is proposed. This includes feature circular bands and a standing stone in the centre of the space, and this also includes feature trees and planting. So in terms of policy assessment, this plan just shows you the site's location in the context of the Strabane area plan and the settlement map for Castlederg. So the application site is located within the development limits of Castlederg on unzoned lands. Officers consider a quality residential environment has been achieved which complies with PPS 7. There are open space proposals which comply with PPS 8. There's been no impact to designated sites or natural heritage, and the proposal complies with PPS 2. There's adequate access and parking provided, which will be adopted by DFA roads, and the proposal complies with PPS 3. And a drainage assessment was submitted, which complies with FLD 3 of PPS 15. So in terms of material planning considerations, officers have considered the planning history. The Northern Ireland Housing Executive support the application and confirmed social housing need at this location, and all representations have been considered and are set out within the report. So officers' recommendation is to approve subject to the conditions in the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. We have one speaker here, is Matt Kennedy. Is Matt on ahead, Matt? Hello, Matt. You're very welcome. You have 5 minutes, as you know, to talk to the committee here.
Chair, councillors, thanks for the opportunity to address the planning committee on this application. I have read the comprehensive planning committee report. I agree with its conclusions, its recommendation to approve. I'd like to thank Sarah and the planning department for their help and assistance in getting the planning application to this stage. I'd also like to be associated with the council's good wishes to Sarah, and wish her all the best in the future, in her next endeavours. In terms of this planning application, this meets an identified social housing need in Castledare up to 2027. It's a logical extension of the adjacent Churchtown Park Housing Executive Estate. It's ideally situated for residential development. It's located between the primary school and the neighbourhood shop, and I believe it provides a quality residential development. The applicant has no objections to any of the proposed planning conditions. I'm simply here to answer any questions if any councillors have any queries on the proposed scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. It's open now to the committee for any questions that you have for Matt. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Chair, for my man. Just briefly there, as we noted there, there's objections in regards to there's a petition there from some residents there and the school in particular. Just wondering on the level of engagement there was with the primary school. I mean, the primary school is a main focus in that part of the town, and if they have objections to it, had there been discussions to try and mitigate their concerns? And then it was just another slight query. Those initial buildings at the front, and again, I've no doubt there's housing need there. That site, Harper's Yard, is it's small for the level of dwellings there you're going into it. Wherever the previous application was 20, or not your application, but a previous planning application, that site was 21 dwellings, and you're sitting with 26 now at this stage. But again, I have no issue with there being a housing need. But just a comment, I suppose, in regards to you're going to 3-storied buildings, and there's no buildings of that height or that size in that part of the town, in fact, until you're on down onto the main street. So I'm just commenting that. I suppose there are concerns from those residents. I'm not exactly sure where the residents are, whether it's the dwelling houses opposite on the far side of the road, I'm assuming. You know, there's a few 2-story houses, but a number of bungalows. So just a few comments on that, Matt. Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, Chair. Just in relation to the primary school, the developer met with the primary school yesterday, and had discussions with the principal, because we thought it was important to engage with the local primary school. In terms of the layout, the design, it was deliberately intended that there would be no overlooking into the primary school. And the way that we have designed the scheme is that we have 2 apartment blocks on the main road. One of the apartment blocks will be occupied by the active elderly. That will be the one that will be adjoining the primary school. And there's no windows overlooking that primary school. The other apartment block is general needs, and it's on the opposite side, and that faces on the Churchtown Park. So the intention behind that is that we would have the pensioners and the active elderly actually closest to the primary school. In terms of the layout and the design, the 3-story element, the previous permission had 3-story approved on it too as well along that frontage. This is 2.5-story, so I think we're actually dropping down slightly. In terms of separation distances, I think they're acceptable, and I think that the layout and the design is significantly better than the previous scheme. And if you look at the layout for the previous scheme, I think this scheme 1 meets the social housing need in the area and has been designed in relation to the social housing need for the area. So it's specifically meeting people's needs that are on the waiting list, in terms of the apartment development. And in terms of the houses, we have also designed the houses in accordance with the social housing need. In particular, one of the properties that we have at the back is that complex needs dwelling, which is a bungalow and has been designed as a wheelchair accessible unit, to facilitate a specific person on the waiting list and a specific family's complex needs. In relation to the layout, I would argue that the layout, I accept that there's an increase in density, but I would argue that the design and the layout is significantly better in the previous scheme. If you look at the level of hard stand, and if you look at the level of open space that we are providing that wasn't provided in the previous scheme, I would argue that our site has significantly more planning merit than that previous proposal. I think that's all the points, but is there anything else?
Mr. Kerrigan.
No, I'm content enough to say what you're doing there, but it was just, I suppose it was that engagement. I mean, we don't know the outcome, I suppose, in one regard of of the applicants or yourselves' engagement yesterday with the school, if the school are still content or not content, but as I say, in regards to that, I have no query in regard to what you're doing. Your site is a better laid out than previously, as can be seen from that. So, it was just getting those points for clarification. Thanks, Matt.
Any other questions for Matt? Unless you, Matt, now, free you go. Thanks very much for attending again. So members, you have a proposal in front of you, 26 housing units. Well, sorry, apologies. Any questions for the officer? Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Chair. There's quite a lot of congestion at of school traffic at mornings and end of school, and I'm just wondering, can we make sure that if the planning application is approved, that would be considered in the construction management plan?
Councillor Daniel, we'll just read through the report and we'll come back to you now shortly.
Sorry for the delay there. I just wanted to check. So DFA roads were consulted obviously with the concerns and objections. That was one of the concerns that was raised. I suppose if members felt it was necessary that a traffic management plan be provided by condition, to address those concerns. I mean, it wasn't a condition provided from DFA roads to us. It wasn't required from reviewing of the conditions here, but if you felt a condition would satisfy yourselves with that to address the concerns of that, then that's okay. We could maybe put that on.
Councillor Devine. You want to add a condition related to that? That's okay. Sorry. Go ahead now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It just would be a condition that we would get on the details prior to the construction, and it would be for the management of traffic during the construction phase. And once the development becomes occupied, then there would be no need for the traffic management. It's only really during the construction phase of it.
Yeah, thanks for clarification on that. Anybody else any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Jackson.
Good Chair, and I suppose it's just on the same point because condition number 17 does restrict the construction works at the site till 7:30 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, Monday to Friday, and then 7:30 in the morning to 1 on a Saturday. But given what Councillor Devine has highlighted around the specific concerns, it's around the school opening times and closing times. If that condition can be focused on at those times, that there's a traffic management in place to accommodate the school opening and closing times, because it does the construction times that are conditioned cover the school opening times, and it's just it makes sense. So if there can be a specific focus on the school opening and closing times.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That's okay to get that added in?
Yes, through the Chair. It would just be a pre-conditioned, pre-occupation condition pre-commencement, because it's during construction. And we would agree the details, so the details would be submitted to officers, and we could just check that the details are acceptable, and we can do that through consultation with roads as well.
Thank you. No one else? Okay, so we can move ahead now to the proposals in front of you. And does anyone want to make any proposals on it? Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, Chair. Happy to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Mooney.
Happy to second it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. So that's proposal by Councillor Gallagher, seconded by Councillor Mooney. Just for around the table, does everybody agree with that, or any discerning voices? So can I take a decision that is unanimous? Thank you. So we're moving on now to number 4. This is LA11/2023/1679/F. This proposed battery energy storage system facility included an electrical substation, CCTV lighting columns, security fencing, new access and ancillary sites works on lands at 23 Maydown Road. And Rosie is going to take us through this one.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 4 is LA11/2023/1679F, and it's a proposal for a battery energy storage system on lands at 23 Maydown Road with a recommendation to approve. And the applications before you today, members, this is an application for major development. So this slide just shows the site location and its wider context. And it's on land zoned for industrial use in the Derry Area Plan. And it's located in close proximity to the Kilkira Power Station. And Council is progressing a reserved matters application for an IT data centre on lands here to the north of the application site. We have River Ridge Recycling here to the south of the site, and we have recently approved 2 applications for synchronous compensators, which are also development related to electricity supply on lands here to the south of the site and on lands at Kilkira Power Station. In terms of the purpose of the battery energy storage systems, the agent has advised that because of increasing amounts of energy generation coming from renewable sources, it doesn't produce the same amount of electricity all the time as fossil fuel generation does, the coal and oil power stations. So a battery energy storage system then enables renewable energy to be stored when there's a surplus of supply and then released back to the grid when it's most needed. So this slide just shows an indicative battery system layout, and this slide shows the actual proposed layout of the battery containers for the proposed site. So there'll be 112 battery units in total, with 56 air conditioning units, 28 transformers and 7 auxiliary transformers. There's a substation building proposed here in the south of the site, and the capacity is 104 megawatts. The slide then just shows a cross section through the site showing all those various components of the battery energy system. The plan and policy context is set out in the planning report, and the consultees, you'll see that there's no objection and where relevant conditions have been proposed. We also we received no letters of representation during the processing of the application, but because it's a major application, there was a public consultation exercise undertaken before the application was submitted. And for the Kilkira applicant consulted with the residents of number 23 Maydown Road, which is adjacent to the site, and discussed the proposed application with them. So this is a summary of the main material considerations that are set out in the planning report. You'll see from the report that the use that's proposed here for the battery energy storage system is a sui generis use, and that it doesn't fall into any specific use class. And the relevance of that to this application is the requirement under policy PED 7 of PPS 4 to retain lands that are zoned for industrial use for industrial development, but there's exceptions permitted. And in this case, officers are satisfied that the development is compatible with existing and approved uses in the wider area, including the IT data centre, which is outline approval, and we're working through a reserved matters application at present. There's Kilkira Power Station, and then there's the 2 synchronous compensators that were approved. So the nature of this development reflects basically the existing electricity generation and supply infrastructure in Maydown. And the development is considered to be of a scale, nature and form appropriate then to the location. In terms of compatibility, there's no emissions to air or water from battery energy storage systems when they're operating normally. However, they do present a risk of fire and explosion and hazardous gas release in the event of fire and explosion. So for these reasons, we have consulted with Health and Safety Executive and the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service. So Health and Safety Executive advised that the operator has a duty to implement measures to control risks and mitigate consequences so far as reasonably practicable. And they didn't object to the planning application. There is the gas pipeline runs in close proximity to the site, so it was necessary to consult with the gas pipeline operator and in agreement with them, a buffers to be maintained between the battery energy storage site and the location of the pipeline, and subject to conditions requiring further detail prior to the site becoming operational. The gas pipeline operator has no objection. In respect of hazardous gases, it's the battery energy storage system doesn't produce any gases or emissions to air during its normal operation. But in the event that there would be a fire or explosion, the production of hazardous gases has to be given consideration. So we have to consider if there's a requirement for hazardous substance consent and consideration under what's called the COMA regulations, the Control of Major Accident Hazard regulations that are operated by the Health and Safety Executive. So the applicant submitted an assessment regarding a loss of control scenario and what might happen in terms of chemical reactions if such an event was to occur. So the fire risk assessment sets out measures to be implemented and concludes that the propagation of fire beyond a single BES container was very unlikely. And their calculations indicate that more than 78 containers would have to combust simultaneously to produce hydrofluoric acid at a mass which exceeds the lower human health threshold of 5 tons. There's also the possibility that during firefighting, if there was a fire, that there would be substances produced that would cause, water quality impacts. And again, the calculations and the reports would indicate that all of the containers on site would have to be on fire for there to be a negative impact on the water environment. So the risks proposed by the facility are as low as reasonably practicable due to the site system design and layout. So officers are satisfied that hazardous substance consent is not required. And respect of the COMA regulations, HSE doesn't advise against the development. We also consulted the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service, and they considered the fire risk assessment, and which basically sets out that the risk of a fire happening is very low, and the containers come equipped with their own automatic fire suppression systems, which consist of water and a gas aerosol system, which is classed as an environmentally clean agent. So Fire and Rescue Service have no objection and advise that the facility will be subject to audit under the fire safety regulations when it becomes operational. So in terms of its compatibility with surrounding developments, officers are satisfied that the development won't be incompatible. The agent has also set out a need for the facility, and that basically centres on the increasing need to move towards renewable energy generation and away from thermal power stations. And Sony have identified battery energy storage systems as a means for Northern Ireland to meet the renewable energy targets. So officers are satisfied that a need for the facility has been demonstrated. In terms of visual impact, again, that's just indicatively what the containers look like. And this area extends to 3.5 hectares. So it is an extensive area that will accommodate 112 of these containers. They are about 3.2 metres in height, and then the other building on site is the substation, which will be 5 metres in height. So given it's quite a utilitarian appearance, but given the wider industrial context, we don't consider that the visual impact will be incongruous at this location. We've also given consideration to environmental impacts in terms of designated sites. SES were consulted and they have no objection subject to condition regarding the construction and operation of the site drainage system. And any NIEA has considered impacts on bats, tree removal and badgers, and again have no objection. Ground contamination, any risks are considered to be low and NIEA are satisfied. And in terms of water impact, Water Management Unit have considered the drainage system proposed and note that there will be emergency turn-off valves which would prevent any kind of contaminated water entering water courses, so they've no objection. In terms of adapting, mitigating and adapting to climate change, the development by its nature should help, a move towards adapting to climate change, in that you're storing electricity from renewable sources and allowing that renewable energy generation to take place. Residential amenities have been considered. There's a couple of dwellings in the location at 23 Maydown Road and across the road at 24. The site is about 50 metres from those dwellings, and environmental health was consulted. We have a noise impact assessment, and environmental health are satisfied that noise won't be an issue for residents. The site is in an area with archaeology potential, given the proximity to the American naval bases that were there during World War II, so there'll be mitigation required in that respect. DFI Rivers have considered flood risk, and a drainage assessment has been provided to demonstrate adequate measures to mitigate for flood risk. And in terms of access and traffic generation, DFI Roads have given consideration to the application, and they're satisfied that safe access can be achieved, and the number of trips to and from the site will be low when it's operational, only 1 per week. So members, approval is recommended subject to the conditions set out in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosie, for that report. Now I'd like to invite Gavin Wilson, the agent, to come forward. Hello, Gavin, you're very welcome. You have 5 minutes to address the committee now. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, members, for the opportunity to speak today. I don't intend to take up all of the 5 minutes. What we would like to say is thank you to Rosie and her colleagues for the very comprehensive engagement that there's been over the last 12 months, and the detailed assessment of the planning application that you can obviously see has gone on across all the various consultees and policies. We're here and we're very happy to answer any questions that any members may have for us in respect of the development.
Okay, members, if you have any questions here for Gavin, go ahead. Somebody indicating, Gavin? They know all about this stuff. All right, thank you, Gavin. Thank you. Okay, members, have you any questions for Rosie? Councillor Boyle?
Thanks, Chair. I don't have any questions, Chair, unless anybody else has any questions, and if not, then I'm going to propose that we accept the recommendation here. Very, very clear. There's an awful lot of work that's gone into this, and thanks to Gavin for coming along. I can't say I'm an expert in this field, Chair, to be truthful, but it's very evident that Rosie and the team have in association with the applicant, put together a very good application. So I'm proposing that we accept that recommendation that's been presented to us, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. With a seconder. Councillor Fleming.
Yeah, I believe it's important for us to invest in and develop our green energy infrastructure, and for that reason, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. And so that's approved. And thank you, Rosie, for your comprehensive report on that. My apologies, Councillor.
I just abstain if I had stepped out, Chair.
It's okay, it's still unanimous.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to. It's all unanimous across the board, Ellen. So go ahead.
Could I just abstain as I was late? Sorry, apologies.
You're all right. Dennis, no problem at all. And just say you're very welcome to this committee. And you weren't in earlier, and I was just saying to other new members of the committee, just take on board whatever opportunities you have for learning about planning and just soak up all the wisdom and knowledge from the planning officers and your colleagues on the planning committee. So very welcome, James. Okay, members, we're moving on to item 5. This time, this is LE 11 2022 0882 RO. This is erection of dwelling and garage 100 metres west of 10 Lahat Road, Castledirk. And Laura's taking us through this.
Good afternoon, members. Application LA 11 2022 0882 That's an outline application for the erection of a dwelling and garage 100 metres west of 10 Lackville Road, Castledirk. The recommendation is to refuse. This, just members, this application was previously scheduled for committee in April, but was deferred to this committee to allow the applicant to be able to attend, just in case anyone remembers having seen this before. So this slide is just indicates the application site there is defined by the red line. The site's currently part of a larger agricultural field. It's located on the western side of Lackville Road. It slopes away from the roadside. There's a post and wire fence along the roadside boundary with a number of mature trees along the verge. The southeastern site boundary is defined by a post or wire fence and some vegetation, and the northwestern site boundary is open and undefined into the remainder of the field. Views of the site are predominantly from the roadside when passing along the road, and the application site is located on the countryside as defined by the Strabane Area Plan. So this is the policy context under which this application was assessed, including the RDS, the Strabane Area Plan, the SPPS, and then the plan and policy statements 2, 3, 15 and 21. So this is some images. So the upper images there, that's a view of the building that's located on the farm. And there, the lower images, that's just the left-hand side, that's a view of the application site and under it from along the roadside. And then another view of the application site from the road. So in terms of consultation responses, a number of consultations took place. None of the consultees had any objections to the proposal, and they've provided relevant conditions and informatives should permission be granted. So this is an application for a dwelling under a farm, which is assessed under PPS 21 and policy CTY 10. So in terms of parts A and B of policy CTY 10, we're content in terms of the consultation responses and the information submitted that it's an active and established farm business in accordance with that part of the policy. And in terms then of part B of the policy, there have been no, we've checked the maps and farm maps provided and carried out a search, and there's no evident other dwellings approved under that farm business, and therefore we're content that no other development opportunities have been disposed of from the farm holding in the last 10 years. So in terms of part A and B of policy CTY 10, we're content that it meets those two criteria. So part C of policy CTY 10 requires that the dwelling is visually linked or sited to cluster with a group of buildings on the farm. So as you can see, set out in detail in the planning report, and just from the images there, there's only one agricultural building located within the blue land, which is identified as being on the farm. And this is accessed from a different road. There don't appear to be any other buildings on the farm, and this has been confirmed by the agent. In terms of that single agricultural building, it's located approximately 490 metres northeast of the application site. So when you consider that on the ground, the separation distance, intervening vegetation, there's a number, a large agricultural field, a number of field boundaries, and the topography mean that this building isn't visually linked with the application site, and it's clearly not. The application site's clearly not clustered with this building, and that it's separated there from it. So in terms of Part C of Policy CTY 10, it's considered that the proposal doesn't comply with that, and therefore it isn't acceptable in principle. So all our policies which could be considered in terms of PPS 21 are policy CTY 13 and 14, which consider integration, design, and rural character. So the site is elevated above the road, the road there where the farm building is located. It's elevated and it's open. There's no vegetation along that northwestern boundary where it cuts through the field. Therefore, it's considered that it isn't provided a suitable degree of enclosure to provide mitigation of the proposed dwelling. It will require a significant level of new planting, in particular along that undefined boundary. Therefore, the buildings would be considered to be a prominent feature in the landscape when viewed from the public road when passing the site, and then transiently from Gambohan Road, which is lower. And therefore, the proposal is considered contrary to policy CTY 10, 13 and 14 of PPS 21 in that respect. The proposal then is also considered in terms of amenity. So there are no issues in terms of any separation distances from the application site to any nearby dwellings. And any there'll be no loss of light, and any details like that can be considered at reserve matter stage should approval be granted. The site's quite large, so there's sufficient space remaining to provide amenity space for the future residents. And environmental health advised there's all our unconnected agricultural buildings located within proximity of the site, and they have provided advice should approval be granted that there may be potential impact from noise and odour. But overall, on balance, the proposal complies with the SPPS regarding amenity. In terms of access, DFI Roads have no objections to the proposal and content that the visibility displays can be provided, and there's sufficient space within the site to provide parking, and therefore the proposal would consider to comply with PPS 3. In terms of natural heritage, so there's some open ditches within the application site boundary and a water course just along the roadside, but consultation has taken place with SES and again mitigation has been provided. The site's not identified as being located within a priority habitat or accommodating any protected species, and there are no obvious bat risks and features observed on the trees, which was assessed in the reports provided to us, and therefore the proposal is considered to comply with PPS 2. And just in terms of PPS 15, there's no areas of flood risk identified at the site, and given the scale and nature of the proposal, a drainage assessment isn't required, and therefore the proposal is compliant in that respect. In terms, there was just prior to the previous planning committee, there was some late information submitted by the applicant, which has been at that point was uploaded to the planning portal, but I just wanted to go over it because I know there's new members here today. But that information's been considered, and officers didn't feel that demonstrated that the dwelling could be visually linked or cited to cluster with the application site, which is detailed in the planning report. We have no letters of objection or support received in respect to this planning application. So just to summarise, in terms of policy CTY 10, Part C, the proposed dwelling and garage isn't cited to visually link or cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm. The site is considered to provide unable to provide a suitable degree of enclosure to visually indicate the proposed development, and the proposed development would appear as a prominent feature in the landscape, and therefore the proposal is considered contrary to policy CTY 10, CTY 13 and CTY 14 of PPS 21, and refusal is recommended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think with the agent, David Young, with us today. If David would like to join us. Hello, David. You're very welcome to Plan Committee today. 5 minutes to address the committee now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to speak to your committee today. The photographs that were submitted as a late item, are they in your packs, the councillors' packs?
Was that the previous committee? Yeah.
Is it possible to have them on the screen? Or?
Yeah, they're not part of the presentation today, but members would have had to cite them, David.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just in terms of the photographs, the case officer report claims that the application site is not visible at figure 6, and figure 1, which I had submitted, is a larger version just of that same photograph. That I would submit that the site is visible. The applicant's land is a long, narrow strip sort of running from Lahal Road to Ganvahan Road, and the site isn't really visible just until you're actually right at the farm buildings. And whenever you're looking up at the farm buildings, the proposed site is actually in the same line of sight, and there's no real appreciation of the separation distance between the two. So, and then similarly from the photographs from Lahal Road, when you look down at the site, then you can see sort of the farm buildings away in the distance as well as the proposed site. And then figure 2 shows the approach to the site from Lahal Road, showing how the site will benefit. There's a lot of trees and the landform. There's sort of like 2 boundaries of the site that are already landscaped, and that to my mind sort of gives a good level of integration. And a single-story dwelling could be adequately accommodated on the site, and it wouldn't appear as a prominent feature in the landscape, as suggested in the report. And similarly, from the Ganvahan Road, you're looking at it from a much lower level, and the site is sitting sort of well below the skyline as well, so it's just not prominent from that. The site access makes use of the road alignment. There's sort of a natural curve in the road, and we don't have to remove any of the trees or vegetation to achieve the visibility displays. So the purpose of making the application is to allow the applicant to reside in the area with his elderly parents, and currently the day-to-day running of the farm, tending the animals and immediate needs and stuff is undertaken by the applicant's father, who lives at Oakland Drive, just on the opposite side of Castledurg. Increasingly, this separation distance is sort of becoming a wee bit of an obstacle to Mr. Wooldench, the applicant's father, and the dwelling on the farm will allow his quality of life to be maintained, sort of carrying on the same type of work that he's been engaged in for his entire working life. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for coming in. Just hand it over to committee members now if they have any questions for yourself, David. Councillor Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just passing comment there in regards to it, from your view there, and again, we'd seen those pictures and the previous that came in as late items when, as Laura had mentioned, this application had been in previously and then had been withdrawn due to the unavailability of the applicant. But and again, I suppose it is that a wee bit awkward for some of the new members who don't have those additional pictures. But it is the line that there is a visual linkage from the site with the existing farm buildings down there, and as you say, there is a natural slope coming down that ground. I think it is that field then run as one field now.
Yeah, there's only one field sort of between the farm buildings and the proposed site. So there's no field boundary between the site, and it's just really a long narrow strip that the applicant's farm there. So
that's just, as you say, that's just the nature of the individual's land. It happens to be in a long narrow strip there from Ginvahan onto Lahal. But it is in regards to, there is a mature cluster of bushes there at the top of their ground in that corner, and I'm assuming then we see the site, and as Laura has mentioned, the site is in the red box is slightly larger, but I'm assuming the dwelling house would be in that corner on the southern side of this site, closer to the other dwelling houses on Lahal Road, rather than going to the north of that site towards Armstrong's oil farm. It's it's in that bottom corners where the potential site would be going. And again, I do know the linkage there, and the level of mature hedging that is in that site. I mean, to be fair, the pictures there taken by the agent would have been when this was coming in initially, and that would have been several months ago, and then the pictures would have been taken prior to that at a time when there was very little foliage on any of the trees, and it looked very bare and open of itself. But at this time of the year, as I say, I was through the road yesterday, and that site is set in that it is. It's very difficult effectively to see that site when you're travelling along Lahal Road, would be my view on it, and I'm just wondering, would that be a similar view yourself? Thank you, Chair.
yes, that's correct, Councillor Kerrigan. You're actually past the site before you realise it. And it was past the site today myself as well, and the trees are all in leaf now, and the existing vegetation there provide a great frame, for the whole site. We'd be happy enough to have a siting condition, that restricts it pushes it into the corner as much as possible. There's also mature vegetation sort of around the farm buildings, which you can, whenever you're looking at it from the Ginvahan Road, the whole thing sort of in the one line of sight, so it's not, so you have the benefit also of not alone the vegetation up around where the site is proposed, but you've also got the vegetation sort of around the farm buildings.
One final follow-up there. It's my look at it there, and I know there's the issue there. That's the Ginvahan Road, but there's the alternate viewpoints from, sorry, that's the Lahal Road. There's viewpoints from the Ginvahan Road. Effectively, then, when you're travelling west on the Ginvahan Road, when you're coming down from Sproles there, you'll not see it due to the nature of the ground. But then, if you're coming along from Rolston's and that and Cecil Mackey's, it is the number of hedges and bushes of the other farmland that is in that there that effectively hides that site. Whenever I had looked across it then, you don't realise, I mean, it has mentioned there, is it 490 metres was mentioned there, but you're talking about the level of foliage and bushes and hedging that is in that section, which effectively hides that site. But just your comments on that. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, there's due to the surrounding landscape there, there's not really the site isn't really evident, as you travel along the road.
Any other members want to ask any questions of David? Councillor Gallagher.
Very much on a similar vein, Chair. Just when we look at figure 2, and when we see the site and we see the blue line, and what Councillor Kerrigan there was saying, if this build was slightly to the south, that blue line would drop, and it would be visually linked. That sort of photograph probably shows it much better, that it would go round the bends, if you want to call it that, but you would see it if it was slightly to the south. Would that be your?
Yeah, are you talking about this figure 2?
No, figure 2. That's in our. And if we look at the blue line, you know that it's in existence on the photo.
Yeah.
But if we went to the rear of the site, then the rear of the site is visually linked, so that blue line would drop.
Yeah, yeah, that would shorten that blue line, yeah.
I think good.
Any other members want to ask any questions? Do you? No, yeah, thanks very much for coming to speak to the committee today.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Listen, just before I go on to questions, Officer Andre, do you want to come in there?
Yes, through the chair, I can just confirm to members that the photographs submitted by the agent as late items for the first committee, they are available to view on the planning portal if anybody wants to view them there. Thank you.
Listen, just in the interest of fairness there, if members want to take a look at the planning portal there, we can take a couple of minutes to do that. You just let me know if you wish to check the portal. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as a new member who wouldn't have been here in April, it would be useful. But as Councillor Gallagher says, I think they're there on the. I have gone back through and checked what was available on the portal in April. Thanks.
You're content enough then?
Yeah.
Thanks. Are you okay to proceed? Does anybody want to check a portal? Okay, so we're going to proceed on. So, members' questions for Laura? So, go ahead, Councillor Kerrigan.
Thank you, Laura. Just one wee brief one there, Laura, and it may just be a wee bit of editing in that. Figure 2, or whatever it is now. The figure 1, figure 2, is figure 1 in regards to, there's a wee green circle on that. In my eyes, it's just stretching a wee bit there to get it from this distance. But there's a wee green circle on that, and that's where the farm dwelling or the building is. But the little yellow circle in figure 2 isn't where the farm building is. You know, and that was as why your line is not visually linked, in my view. So I'm just wondering, is that just a wee bit of editing there? Because, you know, it's not the same. The green circle in figure 1 and the yellow circle in figure 2 are not the same location. And that's, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the actual farm buildings, which we're trying to adhere to, is there a visual linkage or not, is within the green circle. And if you moved the yellow circle to where the green circle was, and from figure 1 to 2, I'm maintaining that a blue line would be visually linked. So I'm just asking, is that maybe that's just a wee bit of editing or something in that regard, or am I right in that assumption? And just a wee point of clarification. And if I am, Chair, I can make a proposal at some stage, but I'll leave it open. Thank you, Chair. If I'm not, we'll see.
Thank you, Councilman Kerrigan. Laura.
Through the chair, no, whenever, like, I did a site visit on this site and there's only one building at that location, and so where I have done the circle, that's where the building is. It probably looks a bit different maybe because one of the drawings is to a different scale, but there's definitely only one agricultural building at that location. It's the same location.
Okay, if we have any further questions for Laura? Any further questions for Laura? No. So members, there's a recommendation. So it's over to yourselves if you have any proposals. Alderman Kerrigan, you indicated you had a proposal.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm not doubting what Laura has said there. I just think that just putting this, but it's on part of my proposal here, that the yellow circle, which is in figure 2, is not where the building is. I think the building is slightly to the left, if you're looking at that picture, and more at the boundary, as far as I can tell there. So that's my link, and I'm not doubting that there's one building. I just think it's in the wrong location. I think the yellow circle should be further to the left, and therefore there would be a visual linkage. There were 3 refusal reasons. First refusal reason is the SPPS and CTY1 of PPS 21, that there's no, just double check that I'm right, that there's no, could be given a refusal reason for something not on it. I know of a reason why this development is essential in this rural location. And again, we will refer to while we still have it. It's the ban area plan, 123.2.1, the rural remainder. I can't read it, but you know what I'm getting at. And in regards to the second refusal reason, CTY 10 and CTY 13 of PPS 21, it's not visually linked or cited to cluster. But I would remind it, it doesn't need to be cited to cluster if it is visually linked. And I would be minded there is a line of visual linkage, particularly if the figure is not correct there. If it's the green circle which I'm referring to, and towards the farm building is slightly more to the west, and in which case, and the dwelling house will be slightly will be in the southern corner of that block. I do believe the blue line will be straight and will be going will be visually linked. So that's the line in regards to the CTY 10 part. In regards to the CTY 13 part, and that it is not a suitable degree of enclosure. I would argue the case if you are travelling, again, as was stated, and it's nothing against the pictures. The pictures were taken because this was to come in 2 months ago, and the pictures were taken previous to that. At that stage, it was early spring, I'm assuming, which case there was very little foliage. The bushes, the trees, everything was bare. Whereby at this stage now, and I say when you're travelling along it, the trees are in full bloom, the leaves, and there is a lot more enclosure. Travelling north along the Lahal Road, the site's off the road, and it is an enclosed. There's a wee garden that you see initially, and then there's mature bushes, mature trees, and a lot of bushes, and that's where the site would be. Again, travelling south along the Lahal Road, coming from Armstrong's, there is a substantial mature hedging running along the applicant's ground, the boundary, and when you're coming along that corner, you won't see it then due to that and where it is stepped in. The only potential viewpoints are from the Ginvahan Road, and I would make the issue that when you're travelling west along Ginvahan Road, coming down from Sproles, you won't see it because you're looking back on yourself and the nature of the land, topography, you won't be able to see it. If you are travelling east, coming from Glacia along Ginvahan Road, there is a potential to see the site, but there's twofold in that. There is a distance, has been mentioned there, 490 metres from the existing building to the site, and from the road it's going to be further, so it's going to be further step back, and it's not going to be on the skyline. And as well as that, the amount of other farmland and hedges and ditching, you won't be able to see a dwelling house in there, particularly if it comes into my next point there. So I would be minded that that's in regards to CTY 13. I do believe there is a visual linkage and it can be suitably enclosed. And the third refusal reason is CTY 10 and CTY 14, again not visually linked, and it will be, I could read my writing, resulting in prominent in the landscape. Must be something I've written down. And I would remind it, this is outline planning. A condition can be placed in regards to the ridge height if its officers deem that appropriate. It's not going to be in any skyline. That section of Lahal Road has a number of bungalows. There's a number of two-storey dwellings further back, but they are with the backdrop of the hull as it rises. So as I say, I don't see that there's any issue that we can't put forward a ridge height if that's deemed appropriate. The applicant or the agent had mentioned about a bungalow. So again, if that's deemed appropriate, I do believe it will not be undue or prominent in the feature, and it will tie in my view, with the existing buildings and dwellings which are along that section of Lahal Road. You do have a number of bungalows. You have the bungalow that's directly opposite. You have up to a couple of bungalows there at Forbes's, and then on over to Rob's. So I do believe it can tie in. So in those regards, Chair, I'm content to propose that we do not accept the officer recommendation and that we overturn it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrigan, for your proposal. So you've stated there your refusal reasons, and your proposal includes putting the ridge height condition on it. Have I got that correct?
If that's deemed appropriate by officers.
Could I have a seconder for that, please? Karen or Councillor Devine?
I'm happy to second, Chair. I agree with the points that's already been made by Alderman Kerrigan. With regards to CTY1, I think it's already been agreed, and it was mentioned today, that it's an active business. So the applications for farm dwelling, for the applicant to come and live on a working farm, and I think that's already been evidenced in our application pack. I'm aware of the site as well, and I would agree with Alderman Kerrigan that it is visually linked with the building that's there already. There is mature vegetation and hedging around the site. So again, I think in terms of CTY 10 and 13, that there is suitable enclosure. And the same applies with CTY 10, CTY 14, that there are already a number of other buildings there as well. And again, there's mature vegetation around that proposed site.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Pontius, do you want to?
Yes, so just to clarify that, I think what you'd said was that there would be a condition, if members decide to vote, there would be condition to site it in the southern part of the field, and also that if officers felt that it was reasonable and necessary to put a ridge height condition on, that you would delegate that to the officers as part of this.
Content with that.
Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me on there. I've listened to the debate from everyone, and I'm struggling to identify with the concept of the visual linkage aspect, which is probably the central tenet of this application. The most acute point I found here was when the debate was opened up by Alderman Kerrigan about in figure 2 about the actual location. Was it the yellow or the green? And Laura confirmed that. I accept that, and accept that blue line. If you're looking through it, you're looking through trees. So I'm struggling to see how you could be visually linked from that site to that yellow ring, which is identifying that other building at the top end of that site. Also, if my memory serves me right, I don't think the agent disputed that point as well. I don't think he raised it in his presentation. So on that basis, I just cannot come to terms with the fact that is a visual linkage. So on that basis, Chair, I'll not be supporting this application. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Anybody else want to speak on? No. So, members, we have a proposal from Councillor Kerrigan, second by Councillor Devine, to overturn the officer's recommendation. So we'll go to a vote on that. Just.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is, the proposal, sorry, is to not accept the officer recommendation, to accept the alternative to approve this application. So I'll take the vote. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Branches.
Alderman Neary McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Caroline Devine.
Ta.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tam.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Or.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Ta.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Ta.
Councillor Patricia Logue is absent. Councillor Sean Mooney.
Against.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Ta.
Councillor Martin Riley. Councillor Grace O'Neillis.
Abstain, I missed the start of it.
So the vote is 9 votes for, 2 against. Sorry, 3 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Pontius. So that proposal is carried. Thank you. Okay, committee, the next item we're going to is LA 11 or 2023 or 1716 bar F is retention of a single story rear extension, a new larger front dormer window to the 3rd floor and internal alterations to existing guest house at 38 Hawkins Street. And Malachy is going to take us through this one. Malachy.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 7 is LA 11 2023 1716 is a full application. The proposal is for retention of single-story rear extension a new larger front dormer window to 3rd floor and internal alterations to existing guest house. The location is 38 Hawkins Street. The recommendation is to approve. The application is before committee on the grounds of the threshold for a number of objections and the delegate scheme has been exceeded. The site location map is set out before you. The application site is in 38 Hawkins Street. This is located within the commercial core and the central area as defined in the Derry area plan. It's in the periphery of the city centre, no retail commercial area. The character of the street is there's a mixture of uses, but there's predominantly residential type uses on Hawkins Street itself, whilst Carlisle Road would be more commercial and mixed in nature. The existing property is a 3.5-storey mid-terrace property with an enclosed yard to the rear. It faces on to Hawkins Street. Again, here's images of Hawkins Street looking down from the fountain towards the Carlisle Road and looking up from Carlisle Road back towards the property. And I should say also the application site is located within the conservation area as defined in Historic City Conservation Area Guide. So in terms of the policy context set out in the case officer report, the relevant policies are contained within the RDS, the SPPS, the Derry Area Plan, PPS 6 in relation to the conservation aspects, PPS 16 in relation to the existing use, and PPS 3 in relation to access and movement and parking related to the existing use. So the proposal involves a new ground floor single-storey extension, and you'll see on the images here, it's outlined in light blue. The extension is providing an additional bedroom to the guest house. The application's for retention, so it was built when the case officer visited the site and is complete now. The other floor plans, there's been some internal alterations, and the other operational development involves the insertion of a larger dormer window on the front elevation of the property at the 3rd floor level. So given the location of the site, there are a number of historic buildings in the vicinity. In terms of assessing the proposal in relation to their setting, we've consulted HED. They're content and have no issues in relation to PPS 6. There have been, as alluded to earlier, there's been a number of third-party representations. These are all detailed and outlined in the application case officer report. In terms of a summary here, there's been a number of issues raised within the objections. These relating to the number of temporary accommodation facilities in the locality. There's a disagreement as to whether the site has operated as a guest house or B&B. Issues regarding construction stage and some of the disturbance during construction stage. Negative impacts in terms of the impacts on the business in the area due to antisocial behaviour. Feeling that there was no dining area, communal area shown on the plans. The rise of number of temporary accommodations and associated health and safety concerns perceived with these use. Increased police emergency presence, again relating to temporary accommodation, proposal contrary to plan and policy, impact on business, and the antisocial behaviour. So in terms of the planning consideration, again, the policy context is really centred on the existing use. The application site has been described as a guest house. So we've considered the application in relation to the existing use and the relevant policies for extensions to existing tourism accommodation. These are set out both within the Derry Area Plan and PPS 16. Again, the actual extension itself is quite modest and on the ground floor. And again, the dormer extension is quite modest as well. There's no impacts on any nearby properties in terms of residential amenity or impact to residential amenity from privacy or overlooking or any normal residential amenity impacts. We've also considered the planning history. The application site was granted planning approval for a guest house in 1995 under A 1995-0590. We have taken on board the comments of the third parties raising their concerns, as well as there has been any uptake of that planning approval in 1995. We've asked the applicant for documentary evidence. Documentary evidence has been provided from both from Bray City Council and NIHE in 1987 and 2000, showing that the property appears to have been used for this type of use. It's the opinion of case officers in terms of the conservation area that the extension and the works are coherent with the relevant planning policy within the area plan of PPS 6. And overall, having considered all the relevant plan considerations, including the policy and the plan history and third-party comments, officers are content that the extension accords with the relevant policy framework and recommend approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Malachy. We have Evan Rorty to speak to us today. Go ahead, Evan. Hello, Evan, you're very welcome to Plan Committee today. You have 5 minutes to address the members of the committee.
Great. Thank you, Chair and Councillors, for the opportunity to address the Planning Committee. I've read the Planning Committee report prepared by the case officer and would agree with its findings. I don't propose to repeat what's in the committee report or what has been said by Malachy in the presentation. I'm mainly here on behalf of the applicants to answer any questions you may have. The application is simply for a retention of a dormer window and a modest single-storey extension. Both of these have been deemed acceptable by the Planning Committee or Planning Department and do not negatively impact the conservation area. Other buildings in the area have been extended over time in a similar way, and dormer windows are a common feature on Hawkins Street and in the surrounding area. I would therefore, on behalf of our client, respectfully request the councillors accept the case officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Has any members any questions for Evan? No questions for you, Evan. Thank you very much for coming to see us today. Any questions for Malachy? Okay, no questions for Malachy. So, members, we have a proposal in front of you there. Over to yourselves. Councillor Gallagher.
Chair, happy to propose the recommendation. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Anybody second? Councillor Fleming. Councillor Fleming has seconded that proposal. Anybody else, any views you want to express on it, or do we take it as unanimous? We'll take it. Proposal's gone through. Thank you. Okay, members, we're going to take a 5-minute break at this stage. Thank you. section 5.4. And Rosie's taking us through this one. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Chair. Item 3 is LA 11 2024 0054. This is a Section 54 application to vary Condition 2 of Planning Permission A 2004-0978F to allow 5 additional waste streams to be accepted at the River Ridge facility. The additional waste streams proposed are soil and stones, insulation materials, mixed construction and demolition wastes, and wastes whose collection and disposal is not subject to special requirements in order to prevent infection. Just to shorten that, I'm going to refer to that as Chapter 18 wastes, which is what they fall under the European Waste Code catalogue. And the site is located at the River Ridge recycling lands on Electra Road, and the recommendation is to approve. And again, this application is before you today, members. This is a major application. So the site's located within the established River Ridge recycling facility at Maydown. And the proposed soil and stones, insulation materials and mixed construction waste will be stored within external storage bays, which are already existing on site. And the Chapter 18 wastes will be stored within the recycling building, which is shown just on the aerial photograph there on the right. And the slide just summarises the planning policies that are set out in the planning report and the consultation responses. You'll see again there's no objection, just conditions were relevant. In respect of the plan and history, permission was granted in 2007 under A 2004-0978F for a waste management facility, and there were 3 buildings with that approval. And ancillary to that was facilities for transfer and recycling of waste materials, mainly municipal and general waste. Section 8 of the planning report details the plan and histories that have been approved on site, and again, this is an operational recycling facility. The waste materials accepted at the site are restricted by condition, which is Condition 2 of the A 2004 permission, and the site operates under waste permits regulated by the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. So whilst this is a permit operated outside the planning process, those wastes are regulated by the condition. So only the wastes that are stated in the planning permission are allowed to be accepted on the site. So the material considerations are set out within the report, and again, policy PD8 refers to compatibility with existing economic development uses that are in the area. We consulted with environmental health and they have no objection as the proposed wastes are consistent with those already accepted on site. They require no different or further methods of processing to be treated, and there's no additional tonnage of material to be accepted at the site. And as the site operates under the permit issued by NIEA, environmental health has no objection, and officers consider that the development is compatible with any nearby businesses. In terms of any environmental impacts, the additional wastes proposed to be accepted at the site have been considered by NIEA Regulation Unit and Water Management Unit, and they advise NIEA advises that the site is currently authorised under that permit that I've just spoken about, and it has conditions itself to restrict noise, dust and odour so that it won't cause annoyance outside the site. And the applicant will be required to make another submission to NIEA to vary that waste permit to include the wastes that are proposed under the current planning application. So NIEA has no objection to the proposal. Again, environmental health is satisfied that as the site operates under permit, there won't be any impact on residential amenity. Contaminated surface water is prevented by existing site drainage that's already been approved on the site. And as there's no new buildings proposed, there's going to be no visual impact, and the wastes will be stored in existing storage bays. In terms of access, as there's no additional tonnage, DFI Roads is satisfied that there'll be no detrimental impact on road safety or traffic progression on the road network. And NIA Natural Heritage has been consulted, as have SES and Lochs Agency in respect of any impacts or possible impacts on designated sites. But given the distance there to those sites and that there's no river courses or water courses on the site, there's likely to be no impact on designated sites and no impact on any other priority or protected species. So members' approval is recommended based on the conditions set out in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. We have no speakers on this one, so we'll go straight to questions for Rosie. Councillor Gifford.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. We seconder. Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Just looking across here with nobody one against, we're all unanimous with this one.
Chair, I'll have to abstain because I wasn't here for the presentation.
That's fair enough, Councillor Boyle. Thank you. So we're moving to application number 6, ZLA 11 2023 bar 1542 bar F. Installation of 31 6-metre high lighting columns along greenways and paths and lands at Castle Park, Castlederg, and Laura's taking us through this.
Application LA 11 2023 1542F, the installation of 31 6-metre high lighting columns along the greenway and the paths and the lands at Castle Park and Castlederg. The recommendation is to approve. This application is before members today because this is a council application. So this is the site location plan and the aerial image of the application site. So the site comprises of the existing paths and greenway from Castle Park, and it's located in the western edge of Castlederg. The park contains areas of open space and there's a treed area north of the playground. The application site itself is located, I suppose, predominantly within the settlement development limit of Castlederg and partially outside the limits. And just there I've included a wee section of the Strabane area plan to kind of indicate where the site is inside the development limit, and then along here at the river, it's just outside the development limit. So this is just some images of the application site and the existing pathways. Again, just more images of the application site where the lighting columns are to be implemented. In terms of the policy, that includes the regional development strategy, the Strabane area plan, the SPPS, and then the planning policy statements 2, 6, 8, 15, and 21. In terms of the site constraints, as I stated earlier, the site's partially within and partially outside the development limit. It's partly within an on land zoned for recreation and open space at abuts Castlederg Castle, which is a scheduled monument, and at abuts the River Derg, which is part of the ASSI and SAC, and it's partly within the floodplain of the River Derg as well. We haven't received any letters of objection or support in respect to this planning application. In terms of consultation responses, a number of consultations have taken place. None of the consultees have any objections to the proposal. NIA, SAS in particular have provided a number of recommendations for conditions, as have HED. So this is just the location of the pathway, including the lighting locations. So there's 31 proposed lights altogether, and this is just an image which kind of just shows their standard lighting columns, 6 meters in height. In terms of policy, so for the section of the site, I suppose, which is inside the development limit, it's considered to be in accordance with the Strabane area plan. And then in terms of the section of the site which is outside the development limit, PPS 21 would be applicable, and it would direct considerations of proposals such as this to PPS 8, so which is open space, sport and recreation. So in terms of PPS 8, there are a number of policies within that. Policy OS 1 OS3 and OS7. In terms of PPS 8, it's considered that it won't result in the loss of open space, it won't result in the loss of agricultural land or impact any agricultural activity. The columns are considered common infrastructure and they're of a suitable design. The proposal is compatible with the existing recreational use of the park, and there's no adverse impact on amenity considered in terms of the lighting and any of the nearby residents. So in terms of those policies of PPS 8, officers should contend that the proposal complies. Then we've also considered this proposal in terms of PPS 2, given the nature of the proposal and the location of the site close to the SSI SAC. As I said, a number of surveys there have been provided along with the planning application and consultations taking place. And it's considered that there aren't any adverse impacts subject to conditions in terms of construction that would impact on any of the designated sites, any protected species or any other habitats. Therefore, the proposal is considered to comply with PPS 2 and PPS 8 in that respect. In terms of PPS 6, due to the location of the site, a Castledare Castle and it being a scheduled monument, HED have been consulted. Again, they have no objections and they're subject to conditions regarding archaeological works. So therefore, the proposal complies with PPS 6 and PPS 8. And just finally, in terms of PPS 15, as the sites within the undefended floodplain, PPS 15 applies. The proposals meet the exception as outlined in policy FLD 1. A flood risk assessment was submitted and DFI rubbers have been consulted. Therefore, we're content that the proposal complies with PPS 15. So overall, just to summarise, the lighting scheme will enhance the existing recreational use of Castle Park. It meets the exception for development within the floodplain. It complies with all the relevant policy requirements. We haven't received any letters of objection and the consultees haven't raised any fundamental issues. So approval is recommended for the conditions, subject to the conditions which are set out in detail in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Again, with no speakers in this one, there's any questions for the officer? Go ahead, Councillor Devine.
Just one question in relation to the lighting columns themselves and the fact that it's on a floodplain. Is there any differences? You know, are they just standard lighting columns, or is there any differences because of the fact that they're located on a floodplain?
No.
So Chair, no, not that I'm aware that there's any differences. They're just standard lighting columns. And I know we considered that they wouldn't have any significant impact should there be any type of flood event.
Okay, Councillor Devine. Anybody else any questions for the officer? No. So members of a recommendation to approve in front of you. Councillor Kerrigan.
I content to propose it, Chair.
No seconder. Councillor Devine, thank you. It says pros, Councillor Kerrigan, second by Councillor Devine. Okay, members, we're moving on to items 8 to 12. This is open for information. Some important stuff in there, your local development plan update and the Northwest Transport Plan, etc. Is there anybody any queries on items 8 to 12? Councillor Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. That's the LDP. Just I had a wee query in there in regards to it there. It's for 3.8 there. That's the sorry, where if I can see it now, the rural needs impact assessment and that and the preparation of that and getting that pulled together is that's been left to this addendum report. And I suppose there's another one that's been sitting there. Is there a stage, or are we getting to the stage where we will be looking? I thought in the old Staban area plan you have effectively the red line around the settlements. Is there still a stage where we are looking to effectively go through that? We're looking at these where we have the red line around settlements, and maybe there were some settlements that were still that were designated as settlements in the Staban area plan, and whether they're still going to be classified as ones, or maybe there are some new ones now. So it's just that clarification then as to when are we getting into the work of that? And I suppose the level of impact and the level of work then the consultation will be in regards to particularly, I'm interested in the rural needs impact assessment. So just if Branches could give us a wee update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Branches.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrigan, for the questions. Firstly, in terms of the rural needs impact assessment, yeah, there is a current RNAA done firstly with the original draft plan strategy, and then it was updated. So they're all on the website. It would be a requirement that before adoption that we would provide an updated report, but it's primarily on any changes or modifications that would be required or directed by the DFI direction. So that would be undertaken prior to adoption. So we have to produce all those addendum reports, sustainability appraisal, habitats regulations assessment, equality and rural needs impact. There would be a consultation period after the preparation of those documents for 6 weeks, and that's prior to adoption. On your second question, Councillor, this is the LDP draft plan strategy, and it's covers, just to remind particularly the new members, it's all the strategic elements of the our LDP. So that includes all of our strategic planning policies, from rural, retail, etc., across the entire board of all our strategic policies. It also sets out the strategic elements of our settlement hierarchy, and that has considered and looked at all the what the settlement hierarchy should be, from Derry as being the city, Strabane being the main, Strabane town being the main hub, down to 3 local towns, and then there's it's set out the villages, the tier of villages, and then a number of small settlements. So strategically, it's not envisaged that there would be any new settlements or any further settlements created. But as for the actual boundaries of those settlements, that would be, these are the lines on the map, and that would be part of the second stage of the LDP, the local policies plan. And that's the part that we will be doing, and members will be very involved in that over the next 2 years to actually identify the boundaries of the settlements. Okay.
Thank you, Branches. Councillor Minute.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Branches, for that explanation there. Chair, 3.9, I've just noted there that the last sentence, the team is also doing initial work on the subsequent LDP local policies plan. It's anticipated that members will be invited to meetings about that, like the previous iterations we had for the LDP draft strategy. Will there be anything envisioned about meetings starting? I know it's anticipated we may get word in August about the decision from DFA, but that's obviously not set in stone. But I am heartened that there is work already undertaken for the LPP, but I just wonder when members will be included in that work. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, good questions there. The first stage is to do with the adoption, and certainly as soon as we receive the direction from DFA, members would be made aware of it, and will be involved, and we will get your input and any decisions on how we proceed, and so much as we have a choice in the matter. After that, and we envisage that will be in the autumn. As I said, if we get the DFA report on time in August, then we would have a programme of engagement with the members, both to move towards what exactly we're adopting, and also the capacity building in advance of the actual starting to implement the LDP plan strategy. In terms of the local policies plan, it's very much a matter of that at the same time as we would formally publicly announce and adopt the LDP plan strategy, we would then be formally commencing the local policies plan as well. And at that stage, we would then start to engage with key consultees and members and get that full involvement. So we're not at a stage in terms of the local policies plan of starting to engage with members. But as soon as we get this adopted, we need to hit the ground running, so to speak. And that's where the preliminary work comes in before any decisions can be made by members, obviously.
Thank you, Pontus. Seaman, you want to come in there?
Yes, sorry, thank you through the chair. And just to assure members, we will be adopting the same process and procedure as we did for the local plan strategy, roundtable discussions with members. So again, this is members' plan. It is not an officer-led initiative, but as Branches said, the groundwork has to be done so that we can keep this on track and deliver it in as timely a fashion as we possibly can, given the complexity of it. But please be sure that it will be exactly the same. It will be roundtable discussions on all the relevant topic areas, etc., as we move through this. Thank you, Chair.
Seaman. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, has there been any others, councils that have completed the process? The reports? And if so, was there many issues arising? I'm just looking through this report, and I'm looking through, and I sort of get the sense there's a confidentiality about it. And when you see that, you think, is there issues with it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, to give you a potted history of all the other councils, we are pretty much in the middle, councillor. There have been, I think it's 5 councils have now gone through the process and have adopted their plan strategy. The first was actually Fermanagh and Omagh, then Belfast, and then I think it's Lisburn, Antrim, and Mid and East Antrim have done theirs. So we would be, I think, the 6th. They have come through the process. It's that whole procedure which we've detailed there in that report, or summarised in the report, is from Development Plan Practice Note 11, and that pretty much sets out what the whole procedure will be and how it would happen from the PAC report being given to DFA. DFA do not release that report until right before they're going to issue their direction. And it's only at that stage, that it has been, that it will be made, that it's made public. It's part of the process that was set out way back. Certainly at this stage, you don't read anything into that there are any issues. Some of the councils have come through the process and they've relatively unscathed and were able to adopt fairly quickly after it with limited amounts of work. Some of them have had to do other additional pieces of work before adoption. So we can say nothing at this stage from not seeing the report, but hopefully we will get a good report.
Thank you, Pontus. Councillor Content enough. Anybody else want to ask anything on items 8 to 12? No, so we're going to go into confidential. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Councillor Boyle and Councillor Fleming. Thank you.